Oh, welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm still alive, but I am. Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. What a day. It's been a good day. I mean, I don't want to mislead people and make you think it's not a good day. It's a great day. Every day is a great day to be alive. I'm happy to be here. Holy smokes, today got intense. It was a very intense day. And then when I finally was able to come up for air from work, I realized that the Philadelphia 76ers traded away a guy who, about a year ago was the front runner for Rookie of the Year before he got hurt, and Jared McCain. And so now, today's show, it's not like the show goes out the window, but it definitely changes at least some of what we were going to get into today, because I was ready to talk about the Sixers having a hell of a performance against the Golden State Warriors last night, and VJ Edgecombe looking like a bona fide stud. And I was ready to talk to you about the bounce-back performance, if you want to call it that, by your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers. But, man, it ain't that. The big story, the lead story right now is Jared McCain, who is no longer a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. If you have not been on Twitter or wherever you get your news, if you have not been made aware of that, well, then I guess I'm sorry to break that news to you, but Jared McCain is no longer a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year's Rookie of the Year favorite prior to getting injured is now gone, and here you go. Here's a little bit of info. Shams Charania is the one who put it out. Breaking, the Philadelphia 76ers are trading guard Jared McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder for a 2026 Rockets first-round pick and 3 second-round picks, sources tell ESPN. Now, I know you might be thinking to yourself, Russ, that seems like a bit of a haul, but also are they selling low? Because, listen, the Rockets are still among the favorites to come out of the Western Conference, which inherently means they're one of the favorites to win the NBA title this year. The Rockets have been a team that have long been rumored to be interested in Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. But the Rockets have been a very good team, and it seems like that probably means it's going to be not a bad pick, right? If you're looking at it in terms of what's that first-round pick going to be, it's not a bad pick. I don't want to mislead anybody and make you think that, this is a bad, but it's going to be a late first-round pick. And then you have 3 second-round picks. And so then you have a lot of questions about, how good of a deal is it? And also, while this is happening, trades are just flying right now, including Anthony Davis got dealt. So we are going to have a conversation about that as well. But the Wizards, after this move was made, the Wizards traded for Anthony Davis, which means that now, if you look at that Luka Doncic trade, it was absolutely horrific. But anyway, let's get into the picks themselves, because I think the picks are ultimately where we're going to decide whether or not the value is there for the Sixers. Now, again, it's 4 draft picks for Jared McCain. And I think it's really important that we also point out, and, I don't want to be super negative here, but Jared McCain was sent down multiple times to the G League and never really looked like he got his footing. We were talking about his conditioning and whether or not he was going to be able to reach the level that he was at a year ago. And we'll get to that in a second. But Shams followed up with some details. Sixers are receiving the following second-round picks from the Thunder. 2027 second-round pick. It will be the most favorable of Oklahoma City, Houston, Indiana, and Miami. If I'm looking at this at first blush, I'm thinking that's probably Miami. You're looking next offseason, next draft, you would assume that Oklahoma City and Houston will once again be among the best teams in the league. Indiana, you would expect with Tyrese Halliburton coming back and what's going to be a very high draft pick for them this year, Indiana will probably very much be in the mix. I would guess, my hunch right now is that Miami would be the lowest seeded of those 4 teams. Then you're also looking at a 2028 Milwaukee pick. Well, if Milwaukee trades Giannis, that could end up being a valuable pick, although it is a second rounder. And then a 2028 Oklahoma City Thunder second round pick, which will probably be essentially worthless. Now, I have questions, I have comments, and I have concerns. Now, among the many questions, comments, and concerns is why the Sixers felt the need to move off McCain and whether or not this had anything to do with them thinking that he's not going to get back to the form that he was in a year ago. And to this point, McCain has not looked sensational, but remember, over the last week or so, it did look like he was starting to find some of that confidence he had a year ago. It was starting to feel like he was getting back to some semblance of the player that so many people were excited about. I mean, remember last year, prior to the knee injury, people were making comparisons, and it was unfair, but they were making comparisons to Jared McCain and his shiftiness and his seemingly limitless range. Like, people were making comparisons to like Steph Curry light. Now, again, highly unfair comparison, and I don't think anybody really believed it. But man, I got to tell you, this feels like selling low. Now, it's 4 picks. I don't look at second round picks as being worth much at all. And especially with Josh Harris as the owner, like, we have seen the Sixers ultimately like sell off second round picks for nothing. And there's a thought out there that this will allow the Sixers to get under the luxury tax. And like, listen, I don't want to poo-poo anything, but if you're making a trade to get under the luxury tax and you are trading away a guy who last year was a front runner for Rookie of the Year, and you're trading him for pretty much no other reason than to get under the salary or the luxury tax threshold, that's some like grade A bullshit. And if that's really part of what this was, then it's a terrible, terrible decision. Now, I will note that there have been a few other ideas floated out there. Moving McCain allows him to get under the luxury tax, which I don't give a shit about. I care more about the Epstein emails and the owner who happens to be tied to a few of them. I maybe care a little bit more about that. But does this allow the Sixers to bring back Quentin Grimes? Like, maybe that's what they're going to do. And by the way, Shams did kind of float that idea as well. They're getting back 4 draft picks, including a first. It frees up, and he used the term clears up the glut of guards. I don't think you can have too much depth at guard, but okay. And gives them the flexibility to bring back Quentin Grimes in free agency. Maybe it does. Does Quentin Grimes want to be the number 3 guard on this team? Because make no mistake about it, it's very clear that the Sixers are all in on this backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Now, I say that, and maybe VJ gets flipped for Giannis in about 10 minutes. I don't think that's going to happen, but weirder things have happened. Hopefully it won't happen because we are all big VJ Edgecombe fans. Now, I do question if this was a move that needed to be made right now. The last piece of this is, in theory, making this move allows them to convert Dominic Barlow and convert his contract, which is fine because Barlow's been a good player for them. He's had a really good year. But man, it does feel like you're kind of selling low on Jared McCain. And I understand conceptually you say, listen, if he fitness-wise wasn't up to snuff, if the Sixers were hesitant and they had any kind of real pause about whether or not he could get back to being the guy he was a year ago, well then fine. But like now's the time? Like, was it made known to the rest of the league that Jared McCain was available? And if so, like, is this really the best that you could have done for him? Now, again, if this version of Jared McCain that we've seen this season is really what Jared McCain is, well, then this is a hell of a haul. Good job, Daryl Morey. But I tend to think that they sold low here. Now, again, things could change. I'll also note that while this trade was going on, I think it was after it was executed, it was also announced that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has an abdominal strain and is going to be reevaluated after the All-Star break. So it's pretty clear that the Thunder do not view Jared McCain as a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander replacement, but they desperately needed a guard. Now, again, 4 picks? If one of these was a conditional, right? If it's a late first-round pick from Houston, which it will be, and then like one of those other second-round picks is a conditional pick with like some pretty realistic qualifiers to like turn into a first, well, cool. I'm just not sure that this is a great move for the Sixers. So with that in mind, I'm going to go out to the comments. I'm going to see where people's heads are at with this, and we'll get into it. Chris Freed, first one in today, says, unpopular opinion. If I were the Sixers, I would trade Embiid before the trade deadline. Sixers are not a legit title contender, and this may be the last chance to get out from under the devastating extension. I don't see it. I don't. I think the Sixers will go down with this ship, with the Embiid ship. And I would say based on how he's played the last few weeks, you're not going to get value back. You won't. It's not even you're going to get equal value back. I don't think you would get much value of any kind back if you're the Sixers and you trade Joel Embiid. And I don't think that's worth it. I get the idea of wanting to get out from under the contract, but I think it'd be a mistake. Greg Bondarenko's here. So good afternoon, all. Said, I've been watching the round robin of mixed curling today. Women's ice hockey tomorrow. Yeah? And I think we're, a week away? I think it's a week from today is when the men's hockey starts at the Olympics. So getting excited for the Olympics. We'll see. Ford is here. Says the return for McCain is horrible. On pace to be rookie of the year last year, and you get back a pick that might be in the 20s. I mean, if you think about it, if Houston is as good as they think they are, it could be a pick in the 30s. So, not ideal. Not ideal. And he says, but if it tells me they love VJ, which they should, but the return for McCain is dog shit. Says Sixers got fleeced. Jay Grebby's here, says, good afternoon, Russell and Russettes. Hello, Jay. Thank you for being here. All right, let's see. Nick Abe says it's a good deal. Never was going to be something here. At least they got some value. How about that? That's interesting. Amadeo says horrible trade. It's just to clear the luxury tax. It's a horrible move. Oh, if it's just to clear the luxury tax, it's a horrible move. Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree. Nick Abe says they want to re-sign Grimes. If Grimes is fine being a number 3 guard, I would make the argument that I think Grimes is probably a better fit in that guard rotation going forward, but it's going to cost you a lot. I don't see that being a cheap contract. Let's see. Got a lot of back and forth going on in the comments between the people who I brought up here. Let's see. Nick Abe says McCain needs to be the guy. He won't be the guy here. He certainly won't be the guy in Oklahoma City either. Like, that's SGA's team. I don't think McCain's going to play that big of a role. But I could be wrong. I mean, I think he'll be in a good spot to start, especially with SGA out. But I'd be shocked. Andrew Fawcett's here. Says, greetings all. Hello, Andrew. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Sean C. says, no team makes more trades to undercut the tax like Josh Harris's 76ers. Guy is a stain. Let's see. Nick Abe says, going to hate watch the Rockets now. See, I also don't hate the Rockets. I'm a big Kevin Durant fan. I am. I know that a lot of people turned against Kevin Durant with the decision to go to the Warriors, but I've always been a really big Kevin Durant fan. And believe it or not, and you could choose not to believe it, in his draft year, I was like, I would take Kevin Durant over Greg Oden. I was 100% on the Kevin Durant train. I believed in him like no other. And, well, poor Greg Oden. I mean, the injuries suck, but this is kind of where we're at. It's pretty wild. I'm also looking to see all right, there you go. Artemi Panarin was traded. We're going to get to the NHL in a little bit. Artemi Panarin has been dealt to the LA Kings for Liam Greentree and a conditional third. And apparently LA and Florida were the teams that Panarin was really the most interested in. Let me throw over there really quick. We're going to stay with this like hot stove kind of stuff here. We'll stay with the trades. Here you go. So Elliot Friedman puts this out. Just happened a few minutes ago. What are we at? 5 minutes ago? Artemi Panarin to LA for Liam Greentree and a conditional third. If you're a Flyers fan out there who was, for some ungodly known reason, hoping the Flyers were going to get Panarin, your dream has been dashed. Panarin goes out west, goes to the Kings. The Rangers are in full tank mode. The Flyers should maybe join them there, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, there you go. Panarin to LA. Confirmed. All right, we'll go back to the Sixers, and then we'll get back to the Flyers. We're going to bounce back and forth. By the way, Allison is here. Says, hello. Hello, Allison. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Okay. I actually would like to know, and here Gritty123 says, Rangers are going to rebuild again faster than the Flyers. I don't know if our resident Rangers fan, AJ, will be here today, but I'd like to know what his thoughts are. Let's see. Darth Philly says, looking for the next move, we hope, about McCain. That was the thing. Initially, when McCain got dealt, my thought was there has to be another move coming. And it doesn't seem like the conversation out there among the national media pundits in the NBA is that you're going to see a corresponding move, that they're not going to flip that first-round pick from Houston along with something else to become, like a bigger player in the Giannis sweepstakes. Now, is there a chance that you could see the Sixers make a late push for Giannis, include that Rockets first-round pick and maybe some of these seconds and their own first-round pick and Paul George? Maybe. But if you remember, it kind of felt like all along, Milwaukee probably will look to bottom out. I don't know if you're Milwaukee, what deal would make sense from the Sixers at this point. Like, I thought McCain maybe could make sense for them. You're certainly not going to trade VJ Edgecombe. It would take an all-time stupid move out of Daryl Morey to now trade VJ Edgecombe after trading Jared McCain to go after Giannis. And like the ultimate push all the chips in, win now mode. I think would be a total disaster. I don't see it happening. But then again, Daryl Morey's done some weird things before. This one's pretty good. WAJ says, if Panarin was a Flyer, he'd have gotten 2 no-movement clauses. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Nick Abbey says, Drummond will get traded. We'll see. I mean, that's been kind of floated out there, but I don't know. So, here's the thing. If you are the Sixers right now, you've dealt a guy who a lot of people were very high on a season ago in Jared McCain. Your guard depth is still strong. It's not quite as strong as it was when we woke up this morning, so that's not ideal, but it doesn't have to be the end of days. I guess my question going forward now is going to be, if you are the Philadelphia 76ers, did you just actively hurt yourself for pretty much no good reason? We'll find out. Now, I do want to get to last night's game, because if you stayed up, you were rewarded in the case of the Sixers last night. They walked away with a 19-point win over Golden State in the Warriors arena, and it was another masterclass, ho-hum, another great masterclass out of none other than VJ Edgecombe. Now, we talk a lot about the fact that VJ Edgecombe has been up and down this year. Not the lowest of lows has not been that low. The highest of highs have been surprisingly high. But Edgecombe on Tuesday night was the Sixers' best player. And he had the most shot attempts on the team. He attempted 20 shots from the field, made 11 of them, went 2 of 7 from downtown, finished the night with 25 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. He was all over the place, played like a maniac, was exactly what the Sixers needed him to be. And I guess if you're looking for a silver lining in the Jared McCain trade, it is that they very, very clearly believe that VJ Edgecombe can not only be a very good player, but a legitimate star player in that backcourt along with Tyrese Maxey. You don't move off of a guy like McCain unless you really believe you have somebody who is not only as good, but better than Jared McCain. And Edgecombe last night looked every bit like a guy who could very easily step into, I don't know if I want to go all the way to superstardom yet, but certainly to stardom. I mean, if you think about it, if you watch Edgecombe last night, and if you track his field goal attempts on the night, he doesn't force stupid shots. He doesn't force bad shots. He's economical with his shot attempts. He'll shoot from all over the court. And yeah, 2 for 7 from downtown isn't exactly a great night. But when you go back to the offseason and you go back into the pre-draft scouting, it was that he had no outside game. He's been solid this year. The fact that last night you did not have Joel Embiid in the lineup, you knew that you were going to have to get shots and get points from unlikely sources. The fact that Paul George, received a 25-game suspension, which we talked about on Monday's show, there are going to be guys that have to step up in a big way. And oddly enough, last night's performance out of VJ Edgecombe came with Tyrese Maxey only scoring 14 points in 34 minutes. He went 3 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from downtown. It wasn't as if it was a Tyrese Maxey 40-plus point masterclass and then VJ Edgecombe just kind of riding in there under his wing. I mean, it was pretty balanced scoring, all things considered. Kelly Oubre dropped 15. Dominic Barlow, who we talked about a little bit ago, had 10 points. Andre Drummond had 12 points as the big man of the night with Embiid out. I mean, it was pretty balanced scoring. Bona had 11. Grimes had 10, went 2 of 6 from downtown. And Trent Wofford, of all people, 16 points on 7 of 13 shooting from the field to go along with 8 rebounds. This was a good holistic win. If you're a Sixers fan, it was a strong win where you have the entire team, for the most part, contributing to a win. It wasn't a 2 or 3 player performance. It wasn't like the 77 points that Embiid and Maxey combined to drop last week. It wasn't that. It was a pretty strong game across the board. So, kudos to the Sixers. Now, we do also have to point out that the Warriors are not the same Warriors, right? There was no Steph Curry in the lineup last night. Jimmy Butler's season was ended with a knee injury, so those guys weren't in the lineup. You're talking about the decrepit, reanimated corpse of Al Horford out there. Draymond Green, who, like, there was a rumor going around yesterday that he could be on the block and he might have to get himself mentally prepared for being dealt. God help whatever team decides to try to trade for Draymond Green. I think he'll have an absolute shit fit if he's dealt, but this is the league he plays in, and you could get dealt. So we'll see. We will absolutely see. Sixers are in an interesting spot. I don't know. Will we see any corresponding moves? I'm not so sure. I will also note, though, so the NHL, oh, wait, what's this? Hold on. What did I miss? Hold on. Oh, no. Hold on. Uh-oh. Hold on. I got to see. Oh, man. All right, hold on. Apparently, the school district that I used to teach at has a scandal. Oh, I can't bring it up on the show. I want to see if I could recognize the voice, though. Hold on. I'm going to see. Oh, boy. The school district I taught. I've been waiting for this day. I have. I have been waiting for this day since I taught at that school. I'll tell you if I can report back. But there was a teacher who was recorded on audio. And that's not going to go well. It'll go over well in the community. It'll go over well with a political party within the community. And it will not go over well with another political party in the community. Oh, boy. Boy, that's interessante. I'm going to check that out after the fact. I got to figure out who was the teacher who got recorded. I will have to see. All right, I'll keep everybody posted. I just had this sent over to me, and now I'm very intrigued. Very, very, very intrigued. Okay, anyway. We talked about the Sixers. And it looks like, was James Harden just dealt? I thought James Harden was dealt earlier. There's been the conversation about James Harden getting traded from the Clippers, and yeah, it happened. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I thought so. Like, what? You guys are acting like it just happened. This happened last night. Yeah, this. James Harden got dealt to Cleveland for Darius Garland. I have no idea what Cleveland's doing. I think Cleveland very clearly is just hitting the panic button. The NBA is kind of a mess right now. Like, parity that exists in the NHL Eastern Conference certainly exists in the NBA Eastern Conference as well. The Cavs, I told you guys last year, I did not feel like was as good as their record indicated. They're sitting fifth right now in the Eastern Conference. I do not believe in the Cavs at all. And the idea that, like, you're going to trade Garland to go out and get James Harden, and as if James Harden's going to play well with Donovan Mitchell, I don't know what they're thinking. James Harden, not exactly known as a playoff performer either. I don't know what they're doing. We've heard the rumors about the Knicks potentially like getting ready to trade Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns in separate deals for Drew Holiday and Giannis, and so they're panicking. Detroit was rumored to be potentially looking at shaking up their team. The Celtics got the news about a week ago that Tatum might not actually come back this year. He might sit out. And meanwhile, the Sixers, Paul George gets suspended. They just trade McCain. I don't know what the hell to expect. The Eastern Conference is a weird place to live. Very, very weird place to live. Now, you want to talk about weird places to live? Let's talk about your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers. Shall we? Let's shall. Oh, boy. I mean, I'll tell you this. The Philadelphia Flyers are in a very interesting place right now. And that place is not hell, okay? But they are in a spot where going into Tuesday night's game against the Washington Capitals, they found themselves in quite a predicament because they were coming out of a Flyers Charities Carnival on Sunday that we broke down. I mean, we broke down the Rick Tocchet comments. You can go back and check out the show from Monday. But they came out of a Charities Carnival, and the conversation around the team was Rick Tocchet once again calling out Matvei Michkov for being out of shape when he came into camp. And he also brought up this idea of missing treatments or being late for treatments. And then I said on the show, I mean, if you remember the Monday, I said on the show, if I were the Flyers, I think I'd probably be trying to make the case that the late on treatments kind of thing, that comment didn't necessarily pertain just to Michkov, and that the dieting stuff and the watching what you eat didn't necessarily pertain just to Matvei Michkov. Well, surprise, surprise, Danny Briere met with the media on Tuesday night. We were like 15 minutes into the Press Row Show pregame, and then Briere came out, met with the media, and I went over there and recorded up over the top with my little selfie stick tripod Johnsky and got some of his quotes. Now, Briere essentially came out and said that he wanted to address the comments that were made. I mean, he wanted to address a bunch of things, including the fact that the team had been on quite the losing streak and that the last few weeks haven't gone well and that they're trying to keep the long view in mind when coming to building that team. And he said, and I thought this was reassuring, and this is a thing that Keith Jones also reiterated on Snow the Goalie at the Carnival, that they are not just looking to make a one-year playoff run, that they're not looking to just push all the chips in to make the playoffs and then next year be out of the playoffs and nay. They want to build a long-term Stanley Cup contender. Well, great. That sounds awesome. Everybody's happy. Everybody loves everyone else. It's wonderful. But then he also discussed what was happening with Rick Tocchet's comments about Matvei Michkov. And Briere did admit, yes, Michkov came into camp out of shape, but we are moving on. We're moving forward. That is all, we are moving forward as an organization. And then he also noted the fact that in your second year, you can certainly have a moment where you fall off. You can have a moment in time in your second year in the league. You're still trying to learn the game. You're still trying to learn playing at this speed, the expectations, yada, yada, yada. Briere, I wouldn't say made excuses. It's a tricky spot to be in because on one hand, I could make the case to you that Danny Briere shouldn't have spoken to the media, should have just tried to see if this thing washed over. But where I truly did land is I thought it made a lot of sense for him to come out and to address the media and to try to put some of this to the side. And I thought he really did a nice job. And I know that not everybody believed the same thing that I did, but I thought Briere did a very good job of making the point. Michkov is going to be here long term. They are committed to him. And that he didn't go as far as to say that Tocchet misspoke or Tocchet made a mistake in what he said, but that they're both competitive guys, yada, yada, yada. All right, I'm going to throw out to Danny here for a minute. I don't know where this clip is going to pick up at, but this will just give you a little idea of where things were at with Danny Briere in case you missed it pregame on Tuesday night. All right, here we go.
The way we've been playing. So we're somewhere in between all that.
All right, this is the we're gonna skip.
To get too high when things are going well, not to get too low when you don't know before you arrive to the NHL.
All right, so this is about younger guys, Matvei Michkov, Denver Barkey, guys who are trying to figure out how to play at this level.
It's like on a daily basis, the grind and everything that's attached to it. They're learning, and that's what Rick Tocchet is trying to teach them. I've been through it. Keith Jones has been through it. Rick Tocchet has been through it. It's all part of the process. You could go in our locker room, you can ask guys like Jamie Drysdale, Bobby Brink, Tyson Forster, Cam York. They've all been through it. When you arrive, it's tough. And that's where we were fortunate. I said it a couple of years ago when Matvei arrived earlier than expected. We knew there would be some bumps along the way, and that's kind of what is happening. The other thing I can tell.
Remember, when he came over, he was 18 years old. He had just played in the KHL. He'd never played in North America before. There were going to be bumps in the road. And he's not exactly like a physically imposing player. They expected bumps. Okay, that's fair.
I talk to Rick Tocchet on a daily basis. He wants Matvei to succeed. He wants to.
Now, Rick Tocchet wanting Matvei Michkov to succeed. You would certainly hope so. Right? The whole idea here that Tocchet hates Michkov, I don't believe. I think he's pissed. I think he's still harboring the fact that Michkov showed up out of shape. I think at some point you have to move on. But Rick Tocchet won't have a job for long if it becomes abundantly clear that he hates Matvei Michkov. This front office has gone out of their way to make it known how much they support the player. If Tocchet somehow loses this player where Michkov goes into the offseason and says, I want to be dealt, that would be an ultimate clusterfuck. Because if this relationship deteriorates and the Flyers have to trade Michkov the same way they had to trade Cutter Gauthier, then you almost have to clean house. At that point, I don't think anybody's safe. I mean, I don't think they would fire everyone, but if you had another top prospect say, I need to be out of here, Well, the coach would have to go. And then it's a conversation of what happens with the front office. So I think that Tocchet is a smart enough guy to realize this doesn't work if Michkov has a regression and if he alienates the player. I think also very clearly a conversation had to have been had between the front office and the coach. We'll get to that in a bit.
Develop him to be the best player he can be. Along the way, there's tough lessons that comes with it. We're raising a child. He's there's tough lessons that he's learning. It doesn't matter if he's playing, 12, 14, 16, or even if he was playing 52 minutes. He's learning along the way. It's part of the process. And it's going to make him a better player along the way. And Rick Tocchet wants that. He wants to be here for the long haul to lead this team. Him and Matt Diaz, they have a good relationship. Sometimes they're fiery. Sometimes, when you're not winning, things are done, said, but they always come back to the table. They want the best for this team, and Rick wants the best for Matt. I know there was some.
So Tocchet and Michkov are fiery with one another. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. You remember last year, Michkov even admitted that he and John Tortorella would get fiery, but they ultimately both wanted to win. And so that relationship worked out. So I'm not going to tell you that there's a horrible relationship between the player and the coach. I do think that the coach needs to stop the public pot shots. It doesn't help anybody. It's not going to motivate Michkov to somehow get even more in shape. It's also not going to help take the heat off of Rick Tocchet. Like, the fans don't like Rick Tocchet. He's not going to get them back by taking pot shots in the media at Michkov. And, I'm sure that if I talk to 15 hockey guys, right, they'd be like, well, Rick Tocchet's, he doesn't care if the people like him. Everybody cares. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You could be a total asshole. I'm not saying Tocchet's an asshole. You could be a total asshole, be like, I don't care if people like me. You do. Because on a human level, it makes very much better existence in this world if people that you run into like you more than hate you. If you walk into an arena, your home arena, and your home fans are yelling all kinds of nasty shit at you, guess what? It ain't great. Versus, I don't think anybody expects, if you're a head coach, nobody's expecting flowers to be, flung at your feet. But at the same time, I think that you do want to have the respect of the fans of the team that you happen to coach. There's some patching up here that I think has to be done. All right, I think this is the big thing.
Comments, regarding, missing treatments and from Rick Tocchet at the tournament. Those comments were made, relations to trying to explain how players are learning along.
This was virtually, somebody could do a clip. Maybe Amadeo can go back to Monday's show. But I think this is almost verbatim what I said. You try to divorce the line about being late to treatment and about the dieting from the player and say it's across the board. It's for all players.
He wasn't targeting Matvey. Matvey is learning, and there's things that, that have happened along the way, just like they've happened with, Denver Barkey, Benton. If you ask Trevor Zegras, I'm sure there's things like that. It's trying to teach these guys to become better pros, making sure that everything off the ice is taken care of. Treatments is one of them. Trainings, workouts are part of it. Your nutrition, getting a massage, make sure you're prepared for the next game, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that comes into play when you're learning to become a better pro. So that's what's happening. Don't forget that guys like Travis Panik has gone through it. Just a few years ago, he went from, I think, first few seasons where he scored 24 goals, I think 3 years in a row, and then all of a sudden.
So here's the part where it's, Michkov overperformed. Now, I didn't get to this point. I don't want to cut it off, but I'm going to cut it off. He did say at one point specifically, we are not trading Matvei Michkov. And I think that's ultimately the part that matters the most. Now, would a GM say that about a player that they might actually be open to moving? Sure. Will they say that about a player that they have no intention of moving? Sure. I don't think they're going to move Michkov. I'll tell you why I think it was good that Danny came out and had this press conference, this meeting, this scrum outside of the press box. Do I sometimes get hyperbolic? Do I sometimes exaggerate things a little bit? Maybe. I usually tell you what I do. The first person I ran into in the building, inside the Xfinity Mobile Arena on Tuesday night, the first person that I talked to, other than security, reminding them that the metal detector went off because I have a belt on. I have a belt buckle. It's not even a belt. It's just like the regular belt thing. I'm not like walking in with like one of those giant belt buckles that a cowboy wears, right? I'm wearing a belt. And every time I wear the freaking belt, I have the thing go, I should just not wear a belt. Maybe that's what I should. It doesn't matter. The first person that I talked hockey to in the building, it was a fan, came up to me and said, Russ, they're trading Michkov, aren't they? First person. I didn't seek this out. I also haven't been floating the idea that Michkov is going to be dealt. This fan walked up to me. First person I interact with in the building. They're going to trade Michkov, aren't they? I said, no. Why would they trade Michkov? Because Michkov and Tocchet don't get along. It's like, that's ridiculous. Okay, like, they're not trading Michkov. I don't think that they're going to fire Tocchet either. But I think if push came to shove, this organization is probably more committed to Matvei Michkov than they are Rick Tocchet. To be honest, I think that he's really the only elite prospect that they have so far. Porter Martone, I would say, obviously is right there with him. But in terms of like draft picks that they've had and which ones are elite and which ones aren't, like it's Michkov and hopefully it's Martone. That's it. So they're committed to Matvei Michkov. I think Danny coming out and talking to the media was a good thing. I understand, like Bundy said on Press Row Show pregame, he's like, I think I would have just let it kind of wash over. You know, my pushback was exactly what I said. A fan coming up and saying, they're going to trade him, aren't they? That, to me, proves that there was enough of a worry and enough sentiment out there among some fans that you had to have that conversation. You had to talk to the media. Now, I will say that Elliot Friedman going on 32 Thoughts and throwing out this idea of like, if I were the Flyers, I would send up the Danny Briere signal. I don't know if Danny Briere wanted to go out and talk to the media on Tuesday night, but it certainly feels like whenever the lead national media pundit goes out and kind of throws out this idea that like Danny Briere should probably talk to the media, I think whether Danny Briere wanted to talk or not, he was almost kind of painted into a corner where I guess you got to talk. Yeah, I guess you kind of have to. It was interesting. Now, I saw somebody said in the comments, I don't know where it's at. I'll see if I can get to it. But somebody in the comments said it looked like he was pissed off when he was talking to the media. I do think that there's probably a level of frustration. Like, had Friedman not said that on 32 Thoughts, I'm not positive that Danny Briere holds that pregame press conference. And to be clear, I'm not saying that Elliot Friedman can just say shit and then front office executives just like run to go do it. But I think that there was certainly a sentiment out there among some fans that like, wow, Briere only went on the radio at the Carnival. He didn't jump on Snow the Goalie. He didn't go on PHLY Flyers. He just went to the radio. And like when we had all these other, we had 8 guests, 9 guests, 10 guests, I think. We had a couple of surprise appearances. I think we had 10 guests on the show. That Briere was the only one of note who was missing. That didn't go over the heads of some people. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now you've heard from him. I think it's ultimately a good thing. This front office has tried to build itself on this idea that they are clear and concise and that they're transparent to the public. Well, we heard from Keith Jones and Rick Tocchet and Dan Hilferty at the Carnival. We didn't hear from Danny Briere except for on the radio, which, by the way, the radio didn't live stream what they were doing on YouTube. And so people were like, oh, where's the audio? I honestly don't even know if they ever released the video. Did they? Maybe they did. Did they do video? I have no idea. The flagship, though. I saw John Kincaid jumped into a thread that had nothing to do with him to respond to a fan who was like, oh, why don't you have Danny Briere? John Kincaid goes in and goes, well, he'll be on the flagship radio station. Lottie fucking da, John Kincaid. Oh, you got Danny Briere. Oh, man. I'll save that for another day. All right, let's see. Darth Philly says, Flyers, so much potential, so little hope. I don't get it, but I believe. 1 or 2 trades away from being right there. And we'll see. Tony Escargot is here. Signs of life. I tweeted this earlier today, that there were signs of life. I received an email from Tony Escargot. I received additional cannoli from Tony Escargot. I got some texts last night from some people who were like, what the hell happened to Tony Escargot? The account is gone on Twitter. And I was sad, right? Tony Escargot has become the number one like cannoli purchaser. I think I joked about this the other day. Somebody at Grubhub has to be looking at the influx of cannoli delivery going to random places in the general Philadelphia area and was probably like, what the hell's happening? It's Tony Escargot. So Tony is alive. Tony is well. And I put the quote out from one of the emails over on Twitter earlier today. Quote, they can take the account, but they can't take the cannoli. Tony, we're glad to see that you're doing well and that you are alive. Let's see. Brandon Summerman said, be careful, Russ. The pitchfork crowd will jump on you if you say the wrong thing. I'm not worried about people jumping on the things that I say. It's part of the gig. I can tell you, I've noticed that there are a few Flyers media people who have been taking some serious shots on the chin of late. And I'm not exactly sure that it's gone well for them. There you go. See, Tony said the same thing there. Took my account, but they can't take the cannoli. That's right. Amy's here. I met Amy the other day at the carnival. Amy says, Russ, with what you said last night about speaking to a fan, how many do you think thought they would trade Michkov? I was genuinely surprised by that. I never thought that was a possibility. I think that there was clearly enough concern, fan sentiment, whatever, that they would trade Michkov. I also did get an email that a season ticket holder sent to their ticket rep. And in it, they highlighted the fact that they might not be willing to renew their season tickets because of the Michkov and Tocchet thing. I have to imagine, I don't think that, okay, what's the nice way to say this? If you have season tickets and you email your season ticket rep to be like, hey, I don't think I'm going to re-up because Tocchet and Michkov don't seem to get along. I don't think that the ticket rep is then turning around and forwarding that to Keith Jones and Danny Briere. I do think, however, that on that level, if there are very common refrains that are coming across and a ticket rep talks to the manager and says, yo, I've gotten 7 emails today, Michkov and Tocchet. Well, that manager might turn around and then tell the person they report to, yo, the season ticket holders are not happy. I think that could happen. I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference, but I do think that the Flyers had to get ahead of it, and they did. Let's see. Havokin says, Russ, I still don't think Michkov is used to the longer NHL season. The KHL has a shorter season. Could be that. I mean, listen, Bundy floated a theory last night on pregame that the conditioning thing, because you can catch your wind. This is the thing that I have heard is that your conditioning could get better, but physically you might not improve that much. Bundy kind of floated the idea that could it be a body fat thing? And I was like, well, what's a normal body fat? What's a normal body fat for a player to be at over the course of a season? And he said that when he was playing, 11 or 12% body fat throughout the season is considered strong. If Michkov was well off of that number coming into camp, well, then that would kind of speak to really being out of shape, not just being out of shape winded, but being physically unwell relative to what the level of expectation is. I think he said that when he came in, I don't remember if he said this before the show or after, but Bundy said that there was a year, I think he came in at 15% body fat, and they went after him for being higher body fat. Now, again, I'm not saying that's exactly what this is, but it was something I hadn't really considered. WAJ says, what is success for Michkov and Tocchet's mind? I said Torts. In Tocchet's mind, would he have turned Gretzky into a third-line checker? I think that ultimately he's going to want to see the same thing that, to some extent, Torts talked about being more of a 200-foot player, about being a guy who can be responsible in both ends. I don't know. I just think that they need to move on from this. Amy says, Michkov admitted he was out of shape. Despite what we thought last year, he didn't hate Torts unless he's lying. I don't think he was lying. I mean, I do think that if you're a competitive guy, I think that Torts ended up... I will say this. I think that based on Michkov's comments, and now again, how real are they? How much does he believe it? How much is translation? Michkov spoke glowingly of Torts after his firing, after his dismissal. So unless Michkov is lying, he ultimately felt like Torts was a good coach for him. Make of that what you will. I openly question some of the tactics that Torts used, the scratchings, the benchings. I'm always very hit or miss on how much I believe in John Tortorella, the coach. I know where he stands all time and wins. He's also had some exceptional goalies on his teams, but like, he's not a bad coach. He's not a mediocre coach. I think he's a very good coach. He always raises the floor. I don't think he was the right coach at the right time for this team. I would be interested to know how Michkov truly feels about Tocchet so far. We'll see. AJ is here. Our resident Rangers fan is here. Says, dude, the Panarin trade is pretty meh to me. He's a great player that disappeared late in a playoff run. Rangers might not rebuild faster than the Flyers this time. Last time we had a smarter front office and made 2 big free agent signings. The one thing that New York always has going for it is the market, but it's not like it's a no-tax. I feel like we have now seen that the no-tax states, the no-tax teams, they have the real advantage now, even more so than the market, even more so than like that extra level of being interesting and, you know, being a New York player. Now, LA is a different story. Like, LA clearly is not a no-tax area. So maybe for Panarin, it was the appeal of getting to be out in Los Angeles and live that lifestyle. They are also working on, Frank Saravalli just put this out, the Kings are closing in on a 2-year extension with Artemi Panarin at $11 million per season. Other teams have been prepared to offer in the neighborhood of 4 years at $11.75 million, which is how you know LA was his preferred destination. There was also a rumor that Panarin ultimately said the only team he wanted to go to was the Kings. So again, make of that what you will. I think it's a good thing that he's out there. That's another player out of the Eastern Conference. And as I've been saying for a while, it made no sense whatsoever for the Flyers to go after him. I'm glad that he is going to be off the free agent market and the Flyers won't get desperate and try to offer him the moon and the stars, because timeline makes no sense, age-wise makes no sense, position of need makes no sense. So there we are. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Schmack says, whatever happened to the injury Matt Fay had in the offseason? Why does no one mention that when talking about him and the shape he came into camp? I brought this up on Monday, and I brought it up on Press Row Show last night. I do think it's an intriguing piece of this whole thing. The organization, and I think it was Tocchet, they were the ones who brought up the ankle injury before Michkov. So like when the initial round of rumors of him being out of shape came up, the organization's the one who put out the idea that Michkov had an ankle injury that prevented him from working out. And now, months later, when we're still talking about the conditioning thing, the injury is no longer mentioned. I do think that's interesting, but I don't know what to make of it. James says, we were overachieving early on, and that gave everyone hope. In my opinion, Michkov's main issue is the language. Well, here's the other. All right, so I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw this to the people. I saw some stuff going around Twitter. I didn't weigh into it. I thought it was stupid. But just really quick, I think the language barrier is a thing. I would argue that the Flyers maybe have not done the best job on a few levels when it comes to Michkov and the English language and Russian support. They have a guy who does translate for Michkov to the media, although I don't think that's happened since like December. Slava seems like a nice guy, but he's not a translator. He happens to be bilingual, but he's not a translator. And I will tell you that as somebody who speaks a few languages, there is a distinct difference between being able to be conversational in a language, declaring yourself fluent in a language, and then being able to translate and be an effective translator, because it's not just the words and the grammar, it's also the nuance of the language that also has to be conveyed. And I'm not so sure that that has been at the most elite level. Now, you could make the argument that Michkov should be actively trying to acquire the language, and immersion is a great way to do it, which is true. But in the midst of everything else going on, I'm not so sure that that's the hill to die on right now. So I do think that Jameis is right here. I do think that the language does present an issue, and the lack of being able to actively have a conversation with the media in the target language is probably not ideal. B. Condor says, Michkov played 15 minutes last night. Zegras looked solid at center. Dvorak was amazing in the faceoff circle. Tippett looks like he's taken a big step forward, hopefully a sign of things to come. B. Condor is very positive. I will say, I'm thrilled to see Zegras getting a look at center. I hate complaining. I do. I mean, I do it pretty naturally, but I don't like complaining about things. But I spent the whole first half of the season, if you recall, saying, please split up Zegras and Dvorak so we can get an actual read on what these guys are away from each other. Can we please play Trevor Zegras at center? I don't think that Trevor Zegras is a great 200-foot center. I don't. I think he's a very offensively inclined center who does seem to be making some improvements in the faceoff circle. If Zegras can be a center, it really helps to clear up a log jam, right? And it fits a position of need. Like if Trevor Zegras could be your 1C for the next few years until you hopefully draft or somehow convince a 1C to come here in free agency or via trade, if Zegras could be your 1C, there are worse things in the world. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup with Trevor Zegras as your number one center, and then Sean Couturier is, I don't know, your 2, your 3, your 4C. I don't know what version of Sean Couturier you're going to get moving forward, but it certainly is better for the Flyers if Zegras plays center than for him to play on the wing. So there you go. Ford asks, do we discuss the Philly special 30 for 30 at all? Anyone? I haven't seen it. Did it come out yet? I might check it out. Is it bad that the 30 for 30s don't do it for me? I feel like the 30 for 30s when they first came out were incredible. And like maybe they still are. But there are so many documentaries now. And there's so many production studios now. I don't think they have the same kind of weight. I also haven't watched the new Miracle thing. The new thing on the Olympic team. The U.S. Hockey Olympic team. With all the behind the scenes footage and everything that's never been seen before. I haven't watched that yet either. Maybe I will. I mean, now that hockey's going to go away for a few weeks and all we're going to have... I love the Olympics, though. I will say, I love the Olympics. I get a real kick out of the Olympics. I'm going to spend way too much time analyzing curling. I love speed skating. The skeleton scares the hell out of me. I don't know what possesses a human being to get on a teeny tiny little sled and go face first down like an icy half tube thing. I don't understand what makes anybody ever think that's a great idea, but I'm all in. I think there's a legitimate case to be made that the Winter Olympics are like significantly better and more entertaining than the Summer Olympics. I think we might break that down on Friday. Maybe we will have a conversation on Friday about the Winter Olympics versus the Summer Olympics. Please prepare, if you're going to be here live on Friday's show, prepare your arguments in favor of the Winter Olympics or the Summer Olympics. We should also do like transitional season Olympics. Can I just throw that out? Like leaf raking, leaf blowing, garden planting for the spring, yard cleanup. We should actually think about it. Let's think about it. We'll talk about it on Friday. Now, tonight, if you are looking for more hockey talk, we will be at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey, 6 o'clock. That'll be over the radio, WBCB. There we go. WBCB on the radio and on their YouTube and on the Snow the Goalie YouTube and on Twitter and on Facebook. So join us. If you can't make it out to Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, join us on the live stream. If you can join us in Marlton, please come on out. We'll have a lot of fun. Okay. Oh, this is a good idea, by the way, from Amadeo. Pumpkin carving. That would be good for the transitional season Olympics. All right. We will be back on Friday. Hopefully, I will see many of you tonight, either in person or on the stream over on Snow the Goalie Radio at 6 o'clock. I will see many of you on Thursday at the Press Row Show as the Flyers play their final home game leading into the break. They'll take on former captain Claude Giroux and the Ottawa Senators. And then I'll be back on Friday with the Russ Joy Show. So until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, and you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. Time to go figure out which Phoenixville teacher has made national news for their comments. Did I know them? Did I work with them? I'll find out. I may report back on Friday. This has been the Russ Joy Show. Talk to all of you very soon. Bye now.